Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Real Podcast Mindset Check. Today, we have a very amazing person on today. She shared with me something offline that I was so excited to share with you guys. Linda Moore, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Linda is a successful real estate agent here in San Diego, and she's been doing this for some time now, and she has some great insight both on the business side and that's just on the personal side, how she manages her life, how she manages her day, how she starts her day, how she ends her day. A lot of good stuff to talk about. So why don't we dive in, Linda? I asked you, I said, what do you do to get yourself in the right mindset? And you gave me an answer that I have not heard before. You're like, I'm always in the right mindset. So talk to me about that, if you can. Elaborate a little bit.
Well, I think everybody's wired differently. And just my DNA is I'm always ready for action.
Mm,
I'm always in the right mindset. I don't have to do a certain thing to get myself there. I mean, I wake up, organized. I think that organization is a huge part of it. And I just have never needed to be motivated by anything. I'm just kind of internally motivated. So there isn't any one particular thing that I do to kickstart my day. It's sort of an autopilot every day.
Now, is that something that you started off with? Is it something maybe that your parents, helped nurture, or is that something that maybe in high school you're just like you became this focused machine?
No, my parents were, my dad was a chemist and very successful that way, but I don't really think there's anything that I can, pinpoint with regards to my parents or anything with them doing, driving me along. I think I've always been really just self-motivated
Mm.
to, set goals and achieve them and just be busy. I like working, just work and enjoy what I do.
And let's say something you got that mindset right, and you're going through your day, and something you get thrown a curveball, something kind of starts to maybe eat away at that positive, that focused mindset. Maybe something starts to distract you. How do you get back on that? How do you make sure you stay there?
I like to multitask, so I never feel like anything is distracting me too
Mm,
much because I feel like I can do a few things at the same time. And I'm super solution driven. So if something comes my way, then I'm just on hyper mode, trying to resolve the problem or think
mhm,
about solutions. And I also try to prevent problems by uh, my experience and just doing what I do every day
mhm.
and knowing the things ahead that might happen and being able to anticipate and be ready. Here's plan A, plan B, plan C, and just have everything pre-lined up. And if you really work your plan, then you can sort of hedge off problems a lot of times if you're proactive with things.
Mm. What's that saying? Something like uh, work your plan and your plan works for you, or something like that. Uh, have you heard of that? There's something like I couldn't remember it now, but
Work your plan and plan your work, I
yeah.
guess. But organization is very important
Sure.
to, when you're organized. I think we talked a little bit about having your desk organized as
Mm,
one example, because I feel like I always keep my desk organized. Maybe during the day there's some papers here and there, but I
sure.
always make it a point to keep everything super tidy and not cluttered. And I feel like, when you have a tidy space and when you clear your space, then you're clearing a space for energy to come in. I
Mm,
think that's important to have really good organization. I
yep.
plan ahead for what I'm going to do the next day. I look at my calendar the night before and just kind of go over in my head, how things are going to line up. And
Sure.
sometimes I've been so busy that your calendar looks like a blackout. So you
Sure.
have to be very organized with time management.
Time management, and how do you do that? I mean, I have a daughter. I have two daughters, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and mixed in with work and recreation and whatnot. I always feel like I always wish I had just a little bit more day.
I think you have to delegate.
Mm,
If you are organized and you have systems in place,
mhm,
then you can manage your time. I know when I had young children, I got help. I got
mm,
help around the house and with
yep.
picking the kids up and doing homework and all of that. And so you have to be willing to, relinquish some of your control to other people and
Mhm.
and that kind of thing.
Nice. And so talk to me about your experience in real estate. When did you start, and then how long you've been in the industry?
I started in 1990 and the market was really in the toilet then. I mean, it was, I would say in all of Encinitas, there were maybe 3 sales a month. It was
Wow.
very much down. You wouldn't believe it. And so I thought it was a good time to get in because then I would get more help. There'd be
Sure.
more people to teach.
Uh-huh.
And so I spent a few years keeping my other job managing physicians. And I did that part time. And then I got into real estate. And when I felt like my name was recognized out there and I had a good foundation, about 3 years later, then I just completely went into it full time. So I've been a realtor for 33 years.
Wow. Wow. So this is your 33rd year?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Wow. That's a really good number. That's like that's you got to go celebrate.
We'll see how every year goes and whether I should be celebrating or not.
Yeah. Well, you've had to face some challenges. How did you overcome those challenges? How and maybe how's it different now? How do you overcome challenges now?
Well, I think the biggest challenge that anyone has, and it doesn't matter if you're starting out or you are the most successful realtor out there, the biggest challenge is rejection. And
Mm,
so that fear of rejection, can really cripple anyone
mm,
from even just picking up the phone and making a call to even your client base or getting out there and door knocking. It took me a long time to get past rejection, like if I went for a listing and I didn't get it or whatever, and I took it personally and just really, you know, ate up at me inside, and
sure.
it just took a really long time to get past that. So I think that's a big thing, and it's not something you can turn on and off. It
Mm,
it takes time. When I started with a small farm of about 200 homes right around where I lived,
mhm.
and at that time we didn't really have, computers were DOS computers.
Right, right.
I did a little neighborhood directory with different neighbors' names and delivered them to their door. And then I did a newsletter in the neighborhood and I door knocked for 15 years. So I got to know quite a few people in my farm area and I
Sure.
just expanded a little bit at a time out from there.
Got it. And you mentioned something earlier when you were talking about your earlier career, your earlier part of your career, where you mentioned helping and educating, because there wasn't too many, or there weren't too many agents at the time.
Yeah, there was no business,
Wow.
remember? So it was a
Uh-huh.
great time to get one-on-one learning from your broker.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so you were helping out with that?
No, I was receiving the
Oh, got it. Got
information.
it. Okay.
And so the bad part of starting in 1990 was there wasn't any business, but the good part is I got lots of help in learning the business.
Mm. I mean, maybe in retrospect, I think that's probably uh, such a benefit for your business when you start off when it's hard, because then when it's easier, then you've already had those challenges that have made you grow, and you're not going to get lazy because you already know how hard it was. um, so I could see that as being a very uh, advantageous experience for you starting off when it was pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to a client the other day about it in that in the old days, we had to fax everything. There was no
Mm,
email or any or DocuSign or anything. You'd fax it to one party, they'd sign
sure.
it, they'd fax it again, and it became so blurry by the end. I remember being up until 2 in the morning with a client writing multiple counteroffers, everything written by hand.
Wow.
It was really a lot of work. And it doesn't matter what age you're in or what market you're in. It's a lot of work if you do it the right way. So there's always going to be challenges, no
Yeah.
matter what.
You're saying it's hard work. You know, when someone doesn't do well, what's typically the reason they end up leaving the business, leaving the industry?
Because they're not consistent
Mm,
with what they do. So people say, "Oh, you just have it so easy and you do so much business." Well, I work hard, long hours. I work
mm,
7 days a week, 24/7. I'm dreaming it at night. So it's not easy. And
mhm,
you have to be really, really methodical and diligent. And I have a business plan that I do, and I do it just every
mhm.
single day and get it accomplished. And, I was talking to you a little earlier about organizing my mailing list, for example.
Sure.
At the end of each year, I go through them and I double check and make sure, are the people still living there, and
Mm,
everything I want to delete, because let's face it, with the cost of mail and printing and everything right now, it's costing, no matter, even if you're using EDDM, at the end of the day, it's almost a
mhm.
dollar each. So you better make sure that where you're mailing is doing the job and it's efficient. So
Sure.
I have everything super organized into different lists, and I started using Every Door Direct Mail about 7 to 10 years ago. And so I have that whole core. I have certain routes that I send to,
Mhm,
and then I went into each of the routes and the areas in my farm, and some of the streets in the farm were in an EDDM route where there was too many. Let's say I wanted to do
mm,
2 streets, but there's 8. So I have a whole separate mailing list called Outside EDDM, where
got it.
there's just certain streets that I don't send EDDM to. I have another mailing list for past clients, and I have another mailing list for everyone on my farm that doesn't live in the property, that's a non-owner occupied. So
Mm,
I can target market, what I'm going to send, what month, and do it that way.
mhm.
So that's something we talked about earlier, how important it is. Here it is, the beginning of the year. If you haven't done it at the end of last year, then organize
This
your
is the time.
plan, and figure out what you're going to do. And it isn't any one thing, it's probably multiple things. I mean, somebody that's in the business right now
Uh-huh.
should be mailing and having a farm, or door knocking, or calling, and picking 3 or 4 clients a day to call and just check in with and say hello, and doing an open house every weekend. So, and going on Caravan, there's not too much going on Caravan as much as there used to be, where you could actually get out there and preview a lot of houses
Sure.
in a week. But hopefully that will come, start maybe more this year than it did last year, and just keeping up on the inventory. Go see everything in your farm that comes on the market. Be
Right.
familiar.
So that's the magic formula right there. You in a nutshell. Obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of there's a lot more to it, but that is such a great summary of what someone can do to create success in their business, almost within the first year of the business, right?
Well, the other thing too is you have to manage your stress. And
Mm,
that's something that I never mastered until a couple of years ago, when COVID came along and made people take time to chill.
mhm,
So basically what I try to do now is I take time every single day, at the end of the day, at the end of the afternoon, to meditate, and then
mm,
I go for a walk for about an hour outside and get fresh air and get exercise. And you've got to take that time every day
mm.
just to, de-stress.
So would you say that you're actually less stressed now because of those practices than you were pre-pandemic?
100%, yes.
Wow. That's such a cool case study, just hearing it from you. you always wonder. A lot of people say, "Oh, you got to meditate," but hearing how open you are about it and how it has really helped you is awesome. Meditation is could be so many different things, right? I think every person may have it a little bit differently. There's not, at least for me, I don't feel like there's one specific way to meditate. Some people can't have music, some people can, some people need guided meditation, some people just want to hear a water fountain in the background or what have you. But
Right.
I would agree with you that meditation has definitely improved my life, my quality of life. I can even go to it when I'm feeling stressed. Go to it, find a little spot, and just breathe and tune in and meditate. I'm curious if you're open to sharing any practices that you do specifically with meditation.
Sure. Well, I did TM for many, many years,
Mm.
and I tried to get back into it a little bit a few years ago, and it just wasn't working well for me. So I actually do several different things, and I've done many different things, but my routine right now is that I do tapping. Do you know
Happen.
EFT? Yep, I do EFT for
No way.
from, I don't know, 5 minutes to 20 minutes. And I start off with EFT, and I subscribe to an app called the Tapping Solution. And it is an app you can get on your phone. It's very inexpensive. And they have a ton of different tapping series that you can do about any different things, about
Mm,
worry, stress relief.
mm.
There's just a ton of guided tapping
Wow.
sessions. And so I do that. And then I follow the Anthony William Protocol for Health.
Right,
So
okay.
I listened to one of his guided meditations, and then I also learned Reiki a few years ago. So I
Oh,
do a self Reiki after that. So I do 3 different things. It takes me an hour. Sometimes if I get very deeply relaxed, it might be longer, but right now I do those things.
wow. That is amazing. I'm glad I got you talking about that. So I've been like thinking about trying TM because I researched it, I saw it, but I just haven't gone to they have like meetings or what have you before you actually get some sort of guidance counselor or something. But tapping, I really like it. I'm actually I'm actually incorporating a little bit of tapping with my daughters. When they get a little overwhelmed or something's really making them emotional, just centering them, and it's just like do when I do it to myself, you know, it's almost like this rush of or this blanket of just warmth and just feeling secure, feeling safe. And I think that's such a cool thing to bring up. And so, tell me a little bit about your experience with tapping.
I
How did you get
started
started?
tapping maybe 15 years ago with a
Wow.
therapist by the name of Michelle Lucian in Encinitas. And she is fantastic. She's a great therapist. She's really great with family issues or
Mm,
stress reduction. And she taps in her sessions, and she taught me tapping. And there are some more multiplicative uh, ways to do tapping that she
mm.
can tell you more about, but I just do the simple daily positions of tapping, and I use the guided tapping, the app, which is really
Okay.
great.
Ha-
When you're having therapy with her, she guides you and she
is that-
takes you through, and you talk about what comes up, and then you tap through it. So,
okay.
she's really wonderful. If someone wants to learn tapping and go to a place nearby in Encinitas, she's just a really great guru for tapping.
There's a wealth of information for that. That's wonderful. Have you heard? I'm looking at my phone because I'm currently really enjoying HemiSync. Have you heard of HemiSync
No.
meditation? So I'll send you a link offline, but it's basically where Hemi sync meditation, Hemi sync meditation, and you're supposed to have both earbuds in or earphones in, and and they work with sound, isolating it on each side, and then they blend it. And I guess when they blend it, that's when the brain starts to sync. Your right and left hemispheres. Um, I really like it. Just personal experience.
Interesting. Well, I've done neurofeedback too.
Okay.
Sounds more complicated, but similar. So, neuro is very important, and the Anthony Williams' new books are all about neurological and brain health and all of that. So,
Mm.
neuro is important.
I've recently done the Silva method too, just like one of their meditations. I don't know if you know the Silva method.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done that program before.
Yeah, I don't do programs either, but it's mainly just YouTube, or if I can find them on Spotify.
Hmm.
I just like to try different things, and if it works
Yeah.
well, then I can continue to do it. And if I really like it, then I can kind of learn more and then expand a little bit about it, or expand, my knowledge about it. Um, yeah, that's great. So meditation. Now, you also talked about how you fuel your body. So you talk about mind, and energy, clearing the space, clearing your mind. You also talk about what you do to feed your body, your morning routine. So, I mean, it sounds like you're taking care of yourself. So your juice in the morning,
Yeah,
smoothie
got
supplements.
my juice in the morning. I'm on a lot of healing supplements, and I have a very clean diet. I don't eat dairy, gluten, corn, soy,
Oh, wow.
nothing, like no fermented foods, and everything mostly fresh and organic. So, I just try to really live healthy. I stopped drinking alcohol last summer,
Mm,
just because I really wanted to boost up my healing. And I knew that that was a poison that I would be putting into my body. And I don't want to hold myself back from, being healthy. So I
sure.
decided just to cut that out completely, and I don't miss it at all. And
Mm,
I hear more and more people not drinking anymore,
sure.
not because they have an alcohol problem, just because they just want to be healthy. So
Sure.
um, yeah, so I really try to live and eat healthy.
That's great. And you just recently started more of that uh, diet, or is that something that's kind of just progressed over time?
This is my 4th year.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't really, I don't even drink. I just never was part of my identity, or who I was, or how I socialized.
Yeah.
But no judgment on those who do or don't. But um, yeah, I think the closest thing is maybe a hard kombucha sometimes.
Well,
But
that
like I guess you're saying fermentation is not that good for me, huh?
well, I also don't ever take caffeine.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't had caffeine since I was in my 20s, probably.
Wow.
I've never tried coffee. And so I just, try to
Mm,
be careful, because caffeine is a dehydrator. It depletes your adrenals. And let's face it, in this business, our adrenals are always going. We don't
okay.
need to add more to them to deplete them
So
by having caffeine.
so you said, which is crazy, because I think what 99% of the population functions off caffeine, right? Um,
Yeah.
so how do you when I I've been trying to do, what's it called, moringa? Is that
I haven't heard of that.
moringa? It's like a green. There's no caffeine, but supposedly it gives you energy. I'll text you again the kind of what the I mean, you can get them anywhere, like Jimbo's, Whole Foods,
Uh-huh.
Lazy Acres, what have you. I'll look it up here while I'm asking you the next question. But yeah, so moringa is something I've been trying recently. But yeah, caffeine. How do you break that? That's a hard one to break too, right? Like alcohol.
Well, I just never tried coffee, and I stopped caffeine in probably at 20 years old completely, because it really affects anxiety and
Mm,
stress and all of that. And so when I was probably 20 years old, I had some therapy for anxiety issues. And, they told me, they suggested not having any caffeine, and I've just never done it since.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't miss
Wow.
it at all.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you see that the benefits outweigh the cons in this case, right? Like if you take it, it's gonna create probably more chaos in your body.
Well, if it does, and if you can get past thinking that it's doing you good, which it's not,
Mm,
then you're going to get healthy enough to have naturally feeling, energetic
sure.
just from good health.
Wow. Yeah, so I looked it up. It's Moringa, Moring
I haven't heard.
Moringa. Yeah, supposedly it's a really high in antioxidants and um, whatnot. I'll send it over to you, but it's a good energy source. But what's interesting is I say that, but I know like even caffeine doesn't really give you energy. Caffeine just really what is it? It stops the your receptors in your brain to receive the message that you're tired. So it's actually just blocking that information. So it's not even giving you energy. Whereas things like you're talking about feeding your body good things and really tapping into that internal energy that's already there. But a lot of times we block it.
Well, caffeine is artificial because it is giving you an amped up adrenaline,
Hmm.
and that's not a healthy thing to do.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I one time I took a drink. I think it was like a Red Bull when I was maybe in college or something. I don't drink them anymore. But I swear my heart was racing. I was like,
That'll do it.
I don't think I'm going to do that again. Uh,
No,
but
no.
okay, so one thing I did want to ask you is in terms of life lessons, maybe something you have as your foundational beliefs, and maybe something you've passed on to your kids. Do you have any of that? Like, are you willing to share anything that kind of gets you up in the morning, and you have such a strong belief in this belief system that it allows you to function at a high level?
I was listening this afternoon on the way back from San Diego. I love Oprah Super Soul episode.
Mm,
I don't know if
mhm,
you've ever listened to them, but
yeah.
she does one once a week, and she had a new one, and it was talking about kids and how important it is for kids to have a job, and
Mm,
the kids that have never worked not understanding value of life and work and all
mm,
that. And my son started his first job when he was 14, not
okay,
because we told him he needed to get a job, because he wanted to.
sure.
And my daughter started at 16. And they both have great work ethics, and they both enjoy their work. And,
Mhm,
you know, so that I didn't really teach them. They had that, but
sure.
just getting those jobs and having that responsibility, that reward from the job, having their
Mhm,
own money,
sure.
managing their own money, that was invaluable.
I wonder if there's equal benefit to doing something within the home, right? So I have younger kids, so a 3 and a 6-year old. I wonder if having them, because they kind of have jobs right now within the home or chores, right?
Yeah.
But giving them some responsibility and then having them be able to contribute to the well-being of the home, I think is equally beneficial,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
think it is. And having dinners together and talking. I heard your last interview. I listened to it a little bit about the low point in your day, the high point in your day,
Mhm,
sharing those things together
yeah.
as a family. For me and a lot of people these days, everybody's so busy and they're
Sure.
working and all that. And they're eating by the television or they're eating on the run.
Right.
Having that, even if it's once a week, that special time just to get together with your family and to talk about what's going on with each other. That's an important thing.
What I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, and I love it, is that you have such a well-oiled machine in terms of your business and how you operate and you execute at a high level. And you do this in a structure that allows you to find freedom because then you have that time to make those special memories, those moments, right? Because if you're not putting in the work, if, like you said, you're not planting the seeds all the time and being consistent, then you're gonna run into a point in your life where you're just like overwhelmed with, I feel like I'm overworking, or it's this is not working for me. When in fact it would have had that person planted the seeds over time, had structure, because within the structure, I'm sure you've heard this before, but within that structure, you find freedom. A lot of times we kind of tend to shy away from structure because we think, oh, I want my freedom to do what I want and choose what I want to choose. But you actually find freedom in structure, freedom in routine.
Yeah, because you have more time because you're more organized.
Almost like you get your time back when you
It's
do
more efficient.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right. Yeah, I have
well,
more time now too because the market's a little different and it's a little slower,
sure.
and there's just not as much inventory. There's more competition. So fortunately, I made hay while the sun shined, and I have the luxury now of taking it at whatever pace it comes. But it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I've stopped doing everything that I always did and
Sure.
will do.
Sure. Yeah. And that's great. Like everybody is at a different um, place in their life, right? You've had 33 years and you've seen the highs and the lows, and you have a experience to back up why you do what you do every day. And it's just nice having you share both business and personal, because that's what I love about this. It's like, hey, I meditate too, because we have challenges, we have stress, and
Yeah.
how do you mitigate that? How do you deal with that? But at the same time, you're very action oriented, solution driven, which is great too, because that also shows that you're not just meditating all day. It's a part of your practice, but you take with you that meditation, and you still execute at a high level. One last question, if I can, just what is the best piece of advice you've been given?
You mean in life,
Yes,
or
in life, in life.
when people ask me what is, how do you do it? How are you so successful? And
Mm,
this is an opposite answer to what you just asked me. Who told me? Because I don't know that there's anything I can remember that somebody told me. But what I say is the same thing: consistency.
mm,
Have to be consistent in what you do. And that's what I said a few minutes ago. No matter what the market is, if you're too busy,
mhm.
you still have to do it. You still have to make time. If you're not busy, you still have to make time, because what happens is when people get too busy, they don't do it. When they're not busy, they're doing other things. Oh, I'm going to go on vacation now, or I'm going to
Sure.
relax, or, you just have to be consistent.
Uh-huh.
Really, really the key. So,
Mm,
but what we were talking about with the meditation, you also have to take time to unplug.
right.
Got to unplug from it completely for at least an hour a day. And that's something in my first 31 years, I never unplugged, not even for a second.
Wow.
And, you have to be able to do that. So
Mm. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on today. You've been such a delight. I have gained so much from today, and I'm sure the
well,
viewers will as well. We'll have to have you back on again. I think you've been such a fun guest to have on.
well, thank you. I really appreciated you inviting me, and I look forward to seeing this podcast.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Take care.